What are you doing?
Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy Dupuy. I have a PhD in learning disabilities. I am also an adult with dyslexia and dysgraphia. And here today, we also have my friend.
Kim Sharman, who I've been working with kids for the last 15 years who have dyslexia, dysgraphia, and I'm um, familiar with and comfortable with working with a variety of different Orton-Gillingham-based systems that are found to work for kids with dyslexia.
Okay, so she just threw out this big term, and I want to have a quick discussion about this, Kim, because the science of reading and structured literacy and phonics is all coming back into the public school system, right?
Thank God, yes.
Why? Why, thank God?
Because memorization, um, because reading is a science. Medicine is a science, reading is a science. And for too long, I feel like we haven't treated it as such. And there is a methodological way to teach it. And I'm not saying I'm a teacher in a 30-person classroom, but as far as understanding the process, I think it's important that we all learn the process of how to give this information so we can get great readers for everyone.
Now, part of the reason that we're doing this whole series is in part because Washington State has passed an early identification law for kids in K through 2 to catch kids who are at risk for reading failure. And you brought up something really great that it said in the law that you loved. What was that piece?
If I can remember
Systematic.
it, and we have a Washington State dyslexia guide, and you might have to help me, Cindy, but structured literacy is a science-based, systematic, cumulative, multisensory reading program, right?
All right, let's go back and let's write those down again. So one is systematic.
So there's definitely a reason for the order in which we do things.
Okay.
Cumulative. So we build on, we don't just throw everything out at once, we build on these skills and add.
Okay.
Science-based.
And as always, feel free to catch any of my spelling errors.
And number 4, I like to say multisensory. A lot of people use that term differently, but we all know, Cindy, what is the saying you say? If you saying it, reading it, writing it, it all comes, everything is connected.
See it, hear it, feel it.
Right.
Auditory, visual, kinesthetic. So if I see it, that gets in one modality. If I hear it, that gets in another modality. If I can feel it, that gets in a third modality. And actually, the research shows that if you do all three simultaneously, you get everybody learning it. And so the more we can incorporate both auditory, or shouldn't say both, all three, auditory, visual, and kinesthetic, that feeling piece, the more quickly kids learn how to read and the more effectively they learn how to read. Now, let's talk about the systematic back here for just a second, because there's more to it than just systematic, right? Like, part of what we're trying to do is explain to kids what's happening and why, right?
Right.
What's your favorite part of teaching structured literacy? Because you say it all the time to me.
I do.
It's
So
all about the origins.
the origins of the English language. Most of us in our country don't understand why we have so many different ways to make individual vowel sounds. So many different ways to make the A sound or the E sound. That's an example.
What are those 3 origins?
Well, we have 3 different levels of language. The lowest level of language, the oldest, well, actually not the oldest, but the lowest level language is called Anglo-Saxon. And the Anglo-Saxon came when the Anglos and the Saxons and the Jutes all invaded the island of England. And every time there was an invasion of the island of England, guess what? They deposited pieces of sound and language.
And they made my life more difficult.
That's right. And that's why we have so many complex vowel teams or when we just went over it in the previous lesson, we went over syllable types. Okay. The next level up, which is when we start getting to in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, is called Latin.
Ooh, now I remember a lot of schools and high schools used to teach Latin as a language.
Do you know why they did that?
Because it was powerful? Because it was mean?
So here's the problem. Anglo-Saxon is only 25% of our language. 25% of the words we have in English are Anglo-Saxon.
That little.
Latin is 65%.
So if you know the Latin, you kind of know a ton. Just get out the door.
And oftentimes, school systems, I know they're trying to change this now, but they often assumed that people would just absorb the Latin syllable types and the Latin endings, and it's not true. And many of the words, the meanings and morphology and the originations of the words can be determined by learning Latin prefix roots and suffixes. So the problem is we speak Anglo-Saxon 80% of the time. So that's why some kids actually learn to fake read.
All right, what's our last area?
And the last area is Greek, and that's 10% of our language, which of course is essential for decoding and understanding, medical terminology, science terminology of all types.
I have to put the little approximate in there because I'm such a scientist.
Okay,
so when we do structured literacy, it's systematic, it's cumulative, it's based in science. We want to do as much multisensory as we can because it helps all kids. And when we begin to know the origins of the words, it helps us read them correctly, and it helps us spell them correctly. And we ultimately end up with everybody learning to read. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Thanks. Look forward to our next session.